I agree his Spider-Man isn't the best Spider-Man-y, which is probably pretty important for picking a best Spider-Man, but I'm sticking to my convictions. Tobey Maguire.
Our friendship might end by the end of this.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to CBR Saga, CBR's one and only podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indoor Snow Emporium. Do you have a Sanctum Sanctorum that needs to have a bit of a festive redecorating in time for Christmas? Well, just call Indoor Snow Emporium today, and they'll be there in a jiffy to create a winter wonderland inside your home, which will finally give you an excuse to bust out that wizard winter wear you've been saving for this very occasion. But enough about corporate sponsorship. Let's get into today's episode. The Spider-Man No Way Home trailer knocked a lot of people's socks off, and even though we had a sinister amount of villains in the trailer, today we're going to discuss the possibility of one more. Could Kang the Conqueror appear in No Way Home? There's a lot of multiverse shenanigans going on, so it could be, could be kind of likely, right? Well, if Kang does pop up, I don't think one Spider-Man is enough to beat him. It's going to take all the Spider-Men that we've seen to assemble and take down the MCU's new villain. But which Spider-Man would have the best chance against Kang? Well, that's what we're here today to discuss. We're discussing each of the previous Spider-Man's strengths and weaknesses and how they would face against Kang. So Tom, Tobey, Andrew, and maybe a surprise for Spidey. Let's see what we got. I'm joined by my co-host, Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing well. I've watched that trailer a lot.
It recently broke the record for like the most watched trailer ever. So you're saying you are the one responsible.
I was half of those.
For making break that record. That's true. It's a very easy trailer to watch. You watch it and then you watch it again and like, okay, I'm gonna watch it one more time.
When the video ends, there's a little button that it's like a circle with an arrow. It just lets you watch it again. It's great.
Well, that's great. Yeah, it's a very exciting time, I think, to be a Spider-Man fan because we finally have this trailer and we finally have this movie. And as we kind of get into this Spider-Man discussion, I have to ask you, this is a very serious question. Our friendship could hinge on it. Who's your favorite Spider-Man that we've seen?
Tom Holland.
Ooh,
he's a good mix. I think Tobey's a good I think Tobey's a good Spider-Man. They're each good halves, the first two, and then Tom Holland brings it together. They're good at one part of the job.
I agree with that, but there's something about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man that it's probably because it's the first one I saw. Like if I saw Andrew Garfield's first, I'd be like, I love Andrew Garfield, but I love Tobey Maguire's suit and I love his Peter Parker. I agree his Spider-Man isn't the best Spider-Man-y, which is probably pretty important for picking a best Spider-Man, but I'm sticking to my convictions. Tobey Maguire.
Our friendship might end by the end of this.
That's right. Well, let's kind of get into it as we kind of discuss all these Spider-Men and who would kind of hold their own the best against Kang. Since I'm in charge, we're starting with Tobey Maguire, baby. Okay. That's what we're doing.
Sure.
Tobey Maguire versus Kang the Conqueror. I say Tobey Maguire versus Kang the Conqueror. It's not Tobey Maguire versus Kang the Conqueror. It's Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. It'd be a very different fight if it's the actor Tobey Maguire. But no, this is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I hate having to do this now, just like because now when talking about Spider-Man, you have to say Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. You have to say Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. You can't just say Peter Parker because now there's a bunch to refer to. But I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is interesting because from what we saw of him, I don't think he faced a real big universal threat, right? Like something big. He kind of embodied the idea of a street level Spider-Man fighting one guy who's kind of crazy, right? Like something that's very down to earth. The Green Goblin and Venom and Sandman, they didn't have like world domination type of aspirations that would affect everything. I guess on the flip side, Dr. Octopus was creating a bomb that was going to destroy everything, but like the fight itself was just mano a mano. So what do you think that sort of mindset would go against someone like Kang?
Yeah, well, their goals, like you said, the goals of the villains that Tobey Maguire fought, they were never large scale. Like even Doc Ock just wanted to create a fusion project. Like he didn't want to destroy the world. And Green Goblin, same thing. Sandman just wanted to see his daughter. Venom just hated Peter Parker because, the whole fired thing.
He didn't have a main goal, did he? He just wanted to get rid of Peter.
Yeah, so he's really never he's never fought a villain really as smart as I think Kang would be. Like Green Goblin and Doc Ock come close, but they don't use their brains towards like world domination or multiversal domination the way Kang does. So I don't know that Tobey would be all that prepared. It's a bit step up from a guy made of sand.
I guess that's true. And I think a problem with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is just like he's agile, yes, but he doesn't seem not as agile as we've seen, and not as quick. Like he's fast, but like he got hit a lot. Like he was, because he had a hulking frame about him. He was less, spry and little like Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland are. Like Tobey Maguire was kind of a big dude during this, like not as teenagers you would have want. So he's just like. He doesn't have. I think Spider-Man's one of his rare gifts is his speed and agility and dexterity, and I don't think we really saw that in Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker in order to bring that to it. And also, I said Tobey Maguire was my favorite, but now I have to start reconsidering, because also Tobey Maguire wasn't that smart compared to the other ones. He was really smart, but he didn't have to invent the web stuff in him. It just kind of came naturally, and he didn't have any suit upgrades. His only superpower was going from that weird sweater human spider suit to the advanced Spider-Man suit with no explanation whatsoever. And I think that's all right. Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, I realize this might turn into like a Tobey bashing session. Love you, man, but looks like a 35-year-old playing a high schooler. Way too jacked. You're right. We do see the speed and stuff like when he first gets his powers, like how you see that like slow motion scene where he can sense everything around him. Then he like fights Doc Ock, who's a very normal human being, and Doc Ock is like slipping some punches.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I love it because he's the first, and I love what he did for Spider-Man. But I have a lot of issues with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. If Kang wanted to beat him, I don't even think Kang would want to beat him, because he would just be like, hey, you're in a terrible relationship with Mary Jane. It's really awful. I'm just going to let you be. You can live with that.
You can do your own thing. Okay, so, all right. So Tobey Maguire on his own, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man on his own probably wouldn't do well in this. What about Andrew Garfield Spider-Man? Okay, we haven't really discussed him. He's like, I think, the Spider-Man that's looked over. I think he does have his fans, and he was a great Spider-Man itself. But I don't see a lot of people saying Andrew Garfield is my favorite, right? Like it just seems like there's either Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire. What would Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker, bring to the Kang fight? He's smart, right? Like he is smart. Is he tactical though? I'm trying to remember what he does. He has the power and spirit of New York behind him. If Kang came to New York, the crane people will make cranes in order for him to swing to make the fight better.
So you said smart and tactical, and then I had to think of the moment where he leaves his camera in the sewer with the lizard, and it has his name on the back of it.
Yeah. Okay.
He's supposed to be like protecting his identity, but he leaves that very important piece of equipment behind.
Yeah.
So tactical, maybe not the most, but he is smart. He is the first one we see like invent the web shooters. He figures out how to defeat Electro. My biggest problem with Andrew Garfield is he feels like he changes too much from the first to the second Amazing Spider-Man. I actually really like the first Amazing Spider-Man, but his character becomes very silly at times and also very depressing at times, like polar opposites in the second one, and it changes on a dime. So I don't know that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man has like the focus, I guess is maybe the right word, to take on someone like Kang.
Okay, so if he doesn't have the focus, and I think he's missing a lot of things, and you say like he switches between the silly and depressing, and that's true, but it's also, I would say, a lot of that, some of that, at least near the end of the movie, is because Gwen Stacy, takes her fall from the clock tower, and that really affects him, and it shows how it affects him, because the movie's almost over, so it affects him for about 5 minutes. Right. But then he's able to come back from that, right? He's able to survive an unimaginable loss of someone who he feels responsible for, and that's something really like besides the Uncle Ben stuff, like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and Tom Holland's Peter Parker really haven't really gone through. I don't know if Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker and even Tom Holland's Peter Parker, like if Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker lost Mary Jane in the same way, and if Tom Holland lost MJ in the same way. I don't think they could bounce back as well as Andrew Garfield's hero did.
And you're right. The fact that he was able to come back from that, even though it was over a montage of like seasons, like he's standing at a grave, like through leaves falling and the snow falling and all that stuff. But you're right. That does show me he does have some sort of like emotional fortitude. That could be useful. Could
Andrew Garfield Spider-Man annoy Kang the most? Because this is the one thing I really liked about about Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It was like, and that's an element of Spider-Man's character which I always loved. It's just like I remember that it's like Spider-Man is very quippy, but he is like one explanation that I saw. I know different variations are different and stuff, but he's so quippy in the version that I like the best because he's trying to disarm his enemies and make them so off balance. Like he loves making Doc Ock mad and show that like that he doesn't care, that he will, no matter, even if Doc Ock seems to be winning the fight, he can unnerve Doc Ock or any other villain that matter by making a quippy joke, by being lighthearted, by being joking. Like it's actually like a very advanced mechanism. And I think Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man did that really well compared to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who's like, he's like quippy, but he's like, that just seems natural to him. He's not like specifically trying to make. There's that one instance. It's like, hey, the Avengers are in town. Like when he's. I didn't know the Avengers were here. Like you guys look different or something like that. That was like the only time he was like specifically jokey as opposed to wide-eyed enthusiasm. And I think that sort of jokiness for Andrew Garfield could probably annoy Kang.
Yeah, no, because you're right. When he's like sitting on top of the truck at the beginning of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Paul Giamatti doing God knows what.
Being awesome. That's what Paul Giamatti's doing. Bring back the Rhino. Everyone says the Lizard and Venom are the ones in that, like the one who's attacking him. I'm calling it right now. It's Paul Giamatti's Rhino.
Oh, gosh. I don't know what I would do, but yeah, no. He's sitting on top of the truck and he's like, "Hey, you guys are bad guys, right?" And he's like sticking his head in the window, and Paul Giamatti's just getting really pissed. So yeah, you're right. I think he is good at that. There's other instances where Tom Holland does it with Thanos. And he's like, magic with a kick. And then Thanos just sort of grabs him and does that there. But you're right. I think Andrew Garfield does do that the best. And he did do that in both. Like, he was like, you've been a bad lizard. Like, he does do that a lot. And I think you're right. I think that could play a part in it.
Okay. So Andrew Garfield could probably hold his own better than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But between Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, the real life actor, who's better to fight Kang? Andrew Garfield's kind of like out there. Like I think I wouldn't want to fight Andrew Garfield.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, no, definitely not. He's got some tricks up his sleeve.
Okay, so we kind of touched upon Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So let's discuss him now. So he is the one who's most likely going to face a version of Kang at some point because this is his franchise. He's in the MCU. This is him. How would this Tom Holland Spider-Man face Kang do against someone like Kang?
It's tough because Kang is not Thanos. Like everyone keeps saying, like Kang is the new Thanos, but Kang isn't like the guy who will take on 7 Avengers at once, like in a physical fight. Kang's the person who will try to outsmart you. And there are smarter people than Peter Parker, but I don't think Peter's wit matches Kang. So in a one-on-one, I think Kang outsmarts Peter every time. There's also this notion that Kang can't be defeated. So even if Peter gets in a good shot and like defeats Kang, another Kang just comes back. That's what Kang's sort of MO in the comics is. So I don't see a way that Peter Parker could win in that instance.
Even with all of his tech, he'll have a new suit of some sort. He'll find a way to merge the Iron Spider suit with Doctor Strange's magic suits that he's going to make him into a magic tech-based super suit. And even saying that out loud sounds awesome, but also it kind of gets rid of the. It's not really Peter Parker. Anybody could wear that suit and beat him. It's not really a Spider-Man type thing.
The other thing about Tom Holland is he feels the most like a kid, which might be a disadvantage for him in this instance. Like I said, with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, it feels like...
What are you talking about? They were all 15 years old.
Feels like late 20s, early 30s people in high school.
Yeah.
They feel like they have more life experience.
Yes.
That they could maybe use to their benefit. And it's sort of like what you talked with Gwen Stacy, because a thing about that movie, which I liked their relationship, but it felt like a very adult relationship for 2 people in high school, Whereas Peter and MJ in like Tom Holland's Peter feels more like a high school relationship. Like they like each other, but they're not like planning on getting married tomorrow and, all that kind of stuff. So that might be less of a distraction, but also just the fact that he feels more like a kid might play to his weaknesses.
I guess that's true. Okay. All right. I want to throw in one more Spidey here. One that's not Andrew, Tobey, or Tom, but it's also Shamik Moore, who voices the character of Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse. Great movie. I love that movie so much. But his Miles Morales Spider-Man character, I think, is interesting. He's one who kind of seems to be coming into his own. Like his arc is more like I want to be a hero, and it takes like the whole movie to get there, and that's like the arc of the movie. But he's shown to be super powerful. He has super strong when he needs to be. He's able to tap into his strength, and he also has a different set of powers. So, what would a non-Peter Parker Spider-Man against Kang work? Do you think that'd be a good fight? Do you think it'd be any different?
Well, now that you bring this up, I think he's probably the best option if we had to pick one. He has experience with like the multiverse.
That's yeah.
His powers, I think, he has powers that the others don't have. Like his I don't know what it's called. It's like a bite or a spider bite?
Oh, the electric bite.
The electric shock.
I like spider bite. That's like
his spider bite. And then he can turn invisible. Like he has these other powers. And the thing is, he masters those very quickly. Like throughout the movie, he's like figuring out who he is. But once he decides like, oh, okay, I got this. He jumps off a building and now he's like fully mastered these powers. So that shows a lot of promise, a lot of strength, like in the character. I think he's probably the best bet now that you bring him up.
So yeah, Miles Morales, I think, would be a great choice. But now I'm kind of thinking we've talked about all these individual Spider-Men separately. Do you think together, these 4 Spider-Men working as a team, doing the strengths and weaknesses of each, taking all those into consideration and working together to beat someone like Kang, do you think they're unstoppable? Or do you think maybe too much Spider-Man is a bad thing?
No, I don't think too much is a bad thing. I think we saw in Into the Spider-Verse that the Spider-Men come from different universe, the Spider people, the Spider animals, depending on who it is.
Sure.
And they're all able to like work together right away. They really didn't have any issues. There was no like personality clashes. Like they didn't have issues with each other. So no, I could see that working out really well. I think it would be cool if they fought more than one. Maybe this is where the Council of Kangs comes in, and you see like 3 or 4 of like the top variants of Kang, and they have to fight this spider team. No, I don't think they're unstoppable. But I think it could go well.
I love that overall story arc of just like maybe one-on-one they fight Kang, they lose, right? Because like one-on-one they all get defeated by Kang. Then they have to work together in order to do it, and they realize they do kind of that Spider-Verse thing where because they all have that moment of just like you're like me because like they understand they've all been through the same thing. I think what was that Nora 9? It's like we're the only ones who understand what you're going through type thing. So they get that kind of boost, and then all 4 of them together beat this version of Kang, and then surprise, Council of Kangs come off, and then they have to split up again and then fight them separately. But this time, since they know they have the strength of the Spidey, universe within them, and they know they've unlocked their true potential, they can beat them one-on-one now. So they learn from working together that they can be strong on their own.
Yeah, no, I like it.
That's my Spider-Verse MCU movie right there.
I think they already have one of those.
Dang it!
Okay. It's called Spider-Man No Way Home.
So I think that about wraps up today's episode. At first, I was kind of hesitant about maybe all these multiverse Spider-Man stuff, but now I don't even care. I want like a full Spider-Verse fighting Kang. Every single version of Spider-Man in one movie. We talk about throwing all of them, throwing Spider-Man Wars, throwing Spider-Ham.
Yes.
Throw all of them in together. And to see what happens, because why not, right? We're in the stage of the MCU where it's why not. I'd like to thank Nick for joining me today. Thank you all for listening. Leave a comment telling us what you think, and we'll see you next time on another CBR Saga. See you later.
My apologies to Maguire and Garfield fans.